I'm Lars Helgeson, founder and CEO of GreenRope and author of CRM for Dummies. And this Fireside chat is going to cover some of the tools that we have built into GreenRope so that we can talk about the strategy and some of the tactics that work that are going to help you run your CRM most efficiently. Some of these tools are going to be more used than others depending on what your business does, but I want to run through a few of these so that you understand the implications in the applications that we have and why we built them into our complete CRM. So the first thing I want to talk about are events. A lot of companies host events, and it's a very good way to bring people in. And as part of that event management process, you have a registration process. That's an important way for you to gather information. As part of your event registration, you can ask for information, which then should automatically flow into your complete CRM. That will keep a record. So say if your salesperson is going to be following up on people, he'll want to know if those events were attended, if that particular lead attended an event that you threw. You also have the opportunity to do automated follow-ups. So say you have a marketing manager who wants to target everyone who is a sponsor of an event and she wants to make it look like a very nice and automated email that goes out to them. Then those events can trigger the automation, which then can trigger more interaction with your brand, which could hopefully eventually then end up with those people either sponsoring again next year, or maybe you can cross-sell and upsell to them. So the events, it's very important to think of events as an integral part of your CRM. You don't want to have a separate system and then try to figure out, well, how do I get all of the event registration data back into the CRM, and then how do I then trigger automation around that? It's much easier if it's all built into the same platform, and GreenRope has that. It's built into our calendaring system, and you can do sharing calendars. You can have booking events where like you can do an appointment calendar. So there's a lot of opportunities here to gather information, set up automation around it, and really improve the engagement between you and your leads and your customers. The next thing I want to talk about are surveys. Now, most of us know what surveys are. The nice thing about GreenRope is that we are able to track the surveys and the responses immediately straight back to our contacts. And if we want, we can take the responses, and the responses will all be in the CRM, but we can actually take the responses and attach them to user fields within our CRM. So again, this is where it's important for us to understand our data model and understand that when we're tracking information about our contacts, what do we want to store and how do we gather that? A survey is a great way to do that. We also have scoring built in. So if you want to have people, for example, take a test, and based on what they've answered, then that can make them more or less likely to receive a certain kind of service from you. You can automate things. So we've had customers where they've asked their customers to take a readiness test, meaning that are you ready for our services depending on what you tell us about your business. And if they come back and say, yes, I'm very ready for this based on their score, that will trigger a certain kind of automation that says, hey, we have a potential client here that went through the process of filling out the survey, and they've answered a lot of questions that make it seem like they're a great candidate for working with us. So events and surveys are great. They can be used a lot more for marketing. Projects are a little bit more operational. Most of us have at least heard of project management software, but it's a way for us to track a complex task that we're working on. So actually, we break projects into smaller tasks, and we can keep track of how we're doing with those tasks. So projects are a great way to keep track of things internally. It's also a great way to track if you're doing service work for external customers, tracking the hours that are spent. You can do billing, resource utilization. There's all kinds of things we have built into our project manager, including a drag and drop Kanban board. So that's an important thing to do. The knowledge base is important in that it helps us really keep track of information. So every group, so again, this goes back to understanding why we set up our groups correctly to begin with. We create a knowledge base for every group. And within that knowledge base, we can have as many different articles as we want. And with those, we can make those articles shareable or publicly accessible, or we can keep them private. So it's a great way to make a public knowledge base where people can search for things and they can find information. In fact, all the information about our API is on a public knowledge base, but some of it's private. So some of the things that we keep track of for, say, our developers keeping notes about what we're doing on certain parts of our system, that is private, and that's kept within our knowledge base. And the last piece there is the learning system, learning management system, or an LMS. The learning management system allows us to keep track of people going through a process of learning how to do something. So if you're in HR and you want to keep track of ensuring that certain people completed certain training, you can do that. You can set up your courses, and actually the LMS is a combination of the knowledge base and surveys, in that the knowledge base serves up the content and the surveys are sent as tests. So you have to meet a certain score, and then you pass that particular module. And so the learning management system is a great way for training and onboarding, and in fact, our own certification program, if you want to be a GreenRope certified user or consultant, then it goes through our own learning management system. So these are some tools that we have built into our platform that you can use. They're free, they're included within your GreenRope account. And so I encourage you to take advantage of them, at least get a feel for what they are, and use them to your best ability.